Last Friday, an anonymous text was sent out warning students at the Coakley Middle School of a mass shooting, which later was sent to the high school as well. Chief Brooks explains what was written in the text and how Norwood Police handled the situation.
Hi, Chief Bill Brooks of the Norwood Police Department. I want to talk a little bit about the threat that occurred Friday focused on Coakley Middle School. So we received a call early in the morning around 7:30 or so from someone who had seen this threat on a phone. It wasn't their phone, but they had seen it, and they brought it to our attention. It was actually a group text, and it had been sent around 11:30 at night. So our officers responded, took a look at the threat, and began to interview the people who were listed in that group text. And essentially it threatened that there would be a mass shooting at Coakley Middle School. But when we read it, right off, there was some real oddities within the message. First of all, this just doesn't tend to happen, that somebody says, "Wait, I'm going to go shoot up a school," then they do it. There can sometimes be leakage, and we encourage people to contact us if there's a suspicious communication from somebody. But an overt threat that, hey, the shooting is coming, and then it happens, that would be unusual. And there were other oddities within the message. It talked about the person having an army that would assist them in the shooting and that sort of thing. So the officers Kelly and Riggle, were conducting an investigation, like I said, going house to house. At the same time, the detectives became involved, and Detective Green and Officer Ryan Sinclair, who's assigned to the detective squad right now, began looking at it from the standpoint of the phone number. And the threat said that the phone number was going to be untraceable. And indeed, the person who sent the threat had taken measures to block us from determining the source of that number. However, and I don't want to get into all the details, but Detective Green and Officer Sinclair were actually able to dig into the number sufficiently to figure out who they were dealing with. And they determined that they were likely dealing with a juvenile who went to the Coakley Middle School, who was traveling out of state at the time. In fact, they talked to this juvenile by phone briefly. Now, the communication that was coming out from the town was really coming out from the Coakley Middle School to the Coakley families. And we were relying on that mode of communication. And they sent 2 different alerts out to families. And I know that a lot of parents actually went to the school and picked up their kids, and kids made their way home in different ways. And the school managed that as best they can, but they really had quite an onslaught of families trying to pick up kids. In the meantime, their messaging contained information from us that we knew that this threat was not credible. We then sent a message in the early afternoon from us repeating that, saying that we knew that the threat was not credible and we were working on it, but we were just not able to give out further details at the time. So it was important that we preserve the integrity of the investigation, not just so that we get a prosecution in court, but so that our questions are answered. We knew that this family would be returning to Norwood and that they would arrive by Sunday sometime. And our detectives worked this investigation from the time the threat was received, Friday morning, right through the weekend, right through Saturday. They prepared applications and affidavits in support of a search warrant for the juvenile's home. And what they were looking for was the phone used so that they could perform an extraction on the phone, and also to search for any firearms. Again, we thought that the threat was not credible, but we also wanted to search and ensure there were no firearms accessible to the juvenile. Sunday morning, they arrived at the juvenile's home, met with the family, explained what was happening, conducted their search for the phone, for firearms, questioned the juvenile, and the juvenile then, in the presence of family, admitted that they are the ones who had sent the threat, and it was clear that they had no motive nor means to carry out any kind of attack as described in the text. And when the search was completed, the detectives placed the juvenile under arrest, which in the case of a juvenile really is all about bringing them to the station, getting their information, fingerprints and photographs, and then releasing them back to the parents. So they're really only at the police station maybe an hour or so. And in fact, the way they executed the arrest was to have the juvenile and a family member get in an unmarked car, drive to the station with the detectives, conduct this processing that I just described, and then release the juvenile back to the parents. The juvenile was, of course, not going to be in school Monday, and we had extra officers at the middle school, and that's for the week. We've had extra officers at the high school for the week, and we've had officers at the drop-off at the elementary schools all week as well. Quite frankly, that's something we do anyway. We can't hit every school every day, but most schools have a patrol officer from the midnight shift at the school during drop-off, just to see families, to see kids, make sure that everything is okay as the kids are making their way in, and that went for that was to happen all week, and will happen all week. So the message here is that the number one, the schools are safe, continue to be safe. The safest place for a kid to be during the day in Massachusetts is inside a school. In Norwood, the schools do a great job of locking down their buildings during the school day. You can only get in through the front door, and that's only if they know you. And so we do have coverage at drop-off, and very often during pickup in the afternoon. We work very, very closely with the schools. We enjoy a productive, positive working relationship with them, and we're in constant communication when something like this happens. This was a difficult matter, particularly on the school side, but in the end, I think it was successfully handled. All of our questions are answered, and I think everything is back to normal. If people have questions about this, they can feel free to email me. I know the superintendent has the same policy. You can ask us questions. We'll respond right away, and we'll answer your questions for you.